This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, adjusting his light a little bit here, out of here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. But I love Toronto behind me because I like Toronto more than I do New Brunswick, and I intend to, at some point, make it my home. But here we are on February the 20th, 2024. And I remember, folks, it was 5 years ago yesterday. I had my guest on the show, and now I got her on again today. And we are celebrating, of course, the 10-year anniversary of a film I kind of discovered by accident called The Bone Garden.
Mm.
And I got one of the actresses on the show with me today, Tammy Kaitz. How do you do, Tammy?
Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. I have a copy of the Bone Garden here, but my DVDs are packed away separately. I got my Blu-rays out here, but the only DVDs I have are ones I have signed, and I got that signed by Mike Guttridge sent to me, so it's in the box
Um,
somewhere, and otherwise I would have had it dug out here, but I've been telling him get that thing out on Blu-ray, so I have it right out here handy. But nonetheless, um, yeah, 10 years for that
wow,
movie. Can you believe that?
wow. I mean, it really doesn't seem that long because it's still, I think, because Mike and I hear from Mike, and I know what's going on with his life, and I'm friends with Tracy, my co-star in the movie, and it just does not seem like 10 years has flown by.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because Tracy is kind of the reason I discovered this movie, with um I don't know what I was doing. I was looking up something. I think I was trying to get her on the show or something. I was looking up stuff, and I discovered the Bone Garden that way, and I thought it was just fan fiction because I had three Friday the 13th alum in it, and so I just,
And for your audience, we're talking about Tracy Savage.
oh yeah, I have been
I know
there.
you blush. You blush when you hear her name. I know.
Yes, I know. She's a major crush for me. I remember when I first saw that movie.
She's great.
Yeah,
We had lunch 2 weeks ago. Yeah, she's great.
yeah. Well, it's funny because I was also a co-producer on 13 Fanboy, which she's part of. I put 3K into that movie, which I was happy to do that for her and Lar Park Lincoln, but there's other people in the film involved in that film that I kind of wish I didn't because they didn't appreciate it.
Mm.
But yeah, I've kind of distanced myself from that movie, but I was happy to do it for Tracy, who was part of it. But what's interesting with Tracy? I got her on through Mike Guttridge, and I've had Tracy on the show 5 times, every time on Boxing Day.
That's because you have a crush on her.
I,
I'm sure you would have her on once a week if you could.
yeah. Well, yeah, and it's interesting because I think this is just my impression. I think she knows I like her too. So, but interestingly enough, she comes on and she talks to me, so she doesn't seem to mind.
No, she's great. She's just a terrific person. And she, my last year, it's doing the film festival circuit, but I have a movie that I'm working hard as the executive producer, and I star in it. That is, submitting to film festivals and going to film festivals. But Tracy did me a favor. The movie actually opens up with, and you hear the voice of a news anchor, and it's
Hmm.
Tracy, and that's how our movie opens, and it's Tracy's voice.
Her voice, we want to see her face too.
Ah, she's got that great iconic voice. She's got,
Yeah,
she's beautiful. She's,
she's got that great iconic voice and
yeah,
that gorgeous, beautiful face.
yes, she is. Now I know the whole family. I know Tracy because her stepbrother. was one of my best friends when I first moved to LA right after college. And so
Mhm.
I've known Tracy. We've kind of grown up together now, our family. And
Yeah. Well, I've known who Tracy was since I'd say the early to mid '80s, whenever it was I first saw Friday the 13th Part 3, and
Mhm.
yeah, I remember her in that movie. Never forgot.
uh,
Hmm. So it's kind of interesting for me the way technology is now today, because I mean I'm going to be 52 this year, and I can remember when we have phones that you couldn't take with you unless you wanted to snap the cord. My parents, there's still an 8-track machine in their house somewhere. Like, I mean, I remember all that stuff growing up, and it's funny. I don't want to get off topic, but I heard an argument on Facebook recently. People, I hear this a lot. They say, they wish they could have lived in the 80s, or they wish they could have lived in the 70s or the 60s or whatever. And I get their point, because each one of those decades have had their mark. I was not alive in the 60s, but I remember a little bit of the 70s. I spent my first 7 years there, and I remember the 80s quite well. I like music a lot more in the 70s and 80s and the 60s than I do today. Um, with few exception. I thought Taylor Swift's concert movie was fantastic, so I'll give her that. But a lot of it's very heavily processed, and I'm like, I don't care about it. But people say this, and there's a lot of stuff about the '80s I like. I like a lot of them, a lot of movies and from back then and whatnot. But when people tell me they wish it was then now and blah blah blah, they're taking for granted a lot of stuff we have easy because I remember a time not too long ago, we couldn't just go on our phone to do stuff. And I remember I was in Toronto, one of my trips, and I came out the wrong end of a mall and I did not know where I was. And back in the 70s and 80s, I would have panicked. Now I just go on my phone. It's like, okay, where am I? Oh, I
right,
just need to follow this red line and I can get
right.
to where I need to be. And I did a video on that as I was finding my way and talking about people taking this stuff for granted because we have a lot of stuff that's like I just went like we talked before I come on air here. I mean, I was able to get an eye operation, the stuff they can do uh with my retina tear. I mean, the guy that did the surgery on me apparently had done 4 or 5 that day. So it's like, okay. So I'm
In 10, 20 years from now, we're going to be looking back on this time and reflecting on the good and the bad of this time as well. Yeah, it's natural.
Yeah, 10 years from now, I'll be like, I'm so much closer to retirement. Am I going to be able to do it? I'm hoping, I don't want to get political, but Pierre Poilievre, come through for us. But nonetheless, but yeah, I discovered the Bone Garden because of Tracy Savage, and I'm actually quite touched that she comes on and talks to me, and because I know on Valentine's Day I text her and wished her happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, yeah. But I haven't met her face to face yet. But for some of these times I get a con up here, I could hopefully meet her and blush some more.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah. So no, I very very happy. She's down the five timers club on the show. So
I need a
so
jacket.
yeah.
Like
What?
Saturday Night Live, when the host have multiple times returning, they have jackets.
I've had a few five timers on here, but there's some times, and I'm kind of like this with Tracy now, where it's like there's some guests I have on here where it's just like I have them on because like for example, I'm gonna reach out to Leanne Curtis this year from 16 Candles. And of course, we're going to be celebrating the anniversary of that film, but I've had her on several times because it doesn't matter. Because the moment she starts talking, I just have to sit back and let her go. Yep. Like there are some guests I can just do that with. Um, some of them they just come on here. Nancy McLaughlin's on here a lot, and she and I share the same Christian faith, so we talk a lot uh about our shared interests there. But but and then there's a lot of times where I don't have guests on as much, but I always look forward to having them back. I
Well,
had you
I
back.
was so excited that you reached out to me for our second time. And the first time we didn't see each other was over the phone.
Yeah,
So this just is that much better, actually, being able to look at you and chat this way.
yeah. Well, I reached out to you before, something to do with the Mike Guttridge's film Wood Floors. And I don't know what happened that you were unable to do it,
Yeah,
but
he wrote this really interesting script. It's just never happened. I mean, I know I know that he has written a part with me in mind, a wonderful part, like a really cool, evil, nasty woman part, which is always fun to play.
mhm.
But he has just never, it's just not moved forward with, being produced. I so admire Mike. He's not only such a gifted writer, but he's an amazing husband and father. And, he's got three kids that are grown up and still in the house. And I think he's got to balance that out. And that's okay. That's
Mhm.
okay. So I know he self-produced a movie last year where I think they shot every couple weekends a month type of thing. And, it was terrific. It was terrific that he just did it. Kids were like part of the crew and, they were gaffers and they were, it just kind of was that sort of backyard production. And it was terrific. I was really proud that he accomplished that. So,
Yeah.
but Wooden Floors has never gone past um, him writing a great script and having a couple actors in mind.
Um, do you think he has taken his Halloween decorations down, or do you think he's still got them up?
So we're talking about the director of the Bone Garden. So Mike Guthridge he's just the quirkiest guy. He doesn't send out Christmas cards. He sends out and his wife is a really, really talented artist. And he sends out a custom made that Katie, that's Mike's wife, makes a Halloween card with the family pictures and the family update as if you would for a holiday card. And he is a fanatic about anything Halloween. So I don't know. I would guess that if those pumpkins have not rotted and if they have frozen or maybe they last longer because they're squashed, I would guess they still line his porch.
Well, I know in the Bone Garden, Tracy got to eat some of his wife's spaghetti.
That's right. Yes, that's
Yeah,
right. That's
I remember listening to the commentary track and he was saying that. So,
right. That's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was back when I was in my old place. So that's why I got stuff in boxes here. But
That was such a fun period for me because I grew up with Tracy's brother being one of my best friends, and he's still one of my best friends. I was a groomsman in Harris's wedding, although they made me wear a bridesmaid dress. I wanted to wear a tuxedo like the groomsman. But Harris and I are great friends. And then over the years, Tracy and I have just gotten closer and closer. But literally, they had fired the other lead actress. And in 48 hours, Tracy had recommended me. And in 48 hours, I was being flown to Baltimore. I live in Los Angeles, and had to learn like very quickly a massive amount of dialogue, like in 2/3 of the entire script. And it was terrifying. And I also thought, what happens when the plane lands? And if Mike feels like he made a mistake, but I had never been to Baltimore before. And Baltimore, not only was the experience great working with Mike and his team and getting to know Tracy better, but Baltimore is just so cool. And I feel like I have been wrecked for life, and I can't eat crab cakes anywhere else, because the crab cakes in Baltimore, Maryland are the most extraordinary crab cakes you've ever tasted. And every time we're in a restaurant and they have crab cake special, well, we'll give it a try. My husband had flown out for the premiere in Baltimore, and he too experienced this phenomena of the Maryland crab cakes. And we have never found as good a crab cakes as in Maryland.
Yeah, did you guys spot John Waters there?
No, no. It's funny because we are not, and I admire people that love horror films. And even though I star in this horror film with Tracy, I am a scaredy cat. And last night we watched the final episode of True Detective. And literally, I was gripping my husband's hand so tight, like scary movies just freak me out. When I was a kid, I remember my mom, I was a little tiny girl. My mom took me to Clint Eastwood and Jessica Walters play Misty for me. Like
Ah, yes.
I don't know what my mom was doing taking me to this. I was way too little tiny thing. And literally my nail scratched my mom's hand, like you could see the scratch marks. And I think actually I think my mother damaged me. I think that damaged me in terms of watching horror movies, because I'm not good at watching horror movies.
Yeah, Play Misty for Me came out the year before I was born. And I think that was the first movie Clint Eastwood directed, if I remember correctly.
It was really, ooh, it was scary. At least to be a
Jessica
little
Wa
tiny girl and watch it. Yeah.
Jessica Walters playing a very sane character.
But I'm just not good with like creepy things, even spiders. When the first day on set with the Bone Garden was the really gruesome scene where the husband, well, I may have chopped off his head. I mean, I just, and that was my first scene, the first day of shooting. And there was one scene before we got to that where, so I play a cougar, a divorcee who brings young boys home. I have my way with them, and then I put their heads in the trunk after I chop off their heads in the trunk of my red Hunkmobile convertible. So one of the scenes was actually the scene where the convertible is opened up, and then you see these heads in the convertible. And how they shot it was they took like a wardrobe box, as if you were moving, one of those great big tall rectangle cardboard
Hmm.
boxes, and they put it on its side, and they cut 2 holes in for the heads, and the 2 actors climbed inside and put their head in, and then they did all sorts of, set decorating around it. And I'm standing, it was just really, and their faces, of course, were already made up. We had an amazing makeup team. And then they actually took with little clips, they actually took live worms and placed them on their faces. And these actors never moved as they rolled the camera and shot some of that. And of course, then it looked like it was the inside of what you see in the movie is it's the inside of the trunk of the red Hunkmobile convertible. But the live worms crawling on their faces, oh my God, these actors, they should have won an award. The
All
movies
kinds.
I've done since then are nothing like that. Give me romance and drama and comedy. I am good. I have not done a horror movie. Oh no, that's not true. Actually, um, so I executive produced and I star in Motel Room, which is in the film festival circuit right now and doing really well. We've won awards all around the world, and I play Hooker with Heart. It is the most beautiful little story, and it's a true story of the writer. Oh God, I lost my train of thought of why I mentioned that. Sorry, lost my train of thought.
You're
There was
talking about worms being placed on people. It led to Motel Room.
no, I know. Horror film. Oh yes. So for Motel Room, my current movie, I had like cheap blonde streaks put in my hair because it takes place in the 1980s. And then I got cast in a horror film that is called, um, oh my God, what is it? It's in post production right now. Oh, I'm I am so embarrassed. Wait, I should look on my MDB page and
I got your
um, yeah.
IMDb page up
Okay,
here
good,
now.
good. What's it called? Then I had to put my hair color normal, and that flew up north, shot it in Northern California, and then I came
Love,
back.
Murder, Florida.
No, 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 no. It's look under feature films and in post production.
Oh, post production. Okay.
Yeah, because it's in post. I'm sorry, director and producers, that I tried. Do you see it?
You got oh, Wood Floor's still pre-production.
Oh my God, I know, I know. Mike should take that off, right?
Drive back.
Oh, drive back. That's it.
Yeah.
Drive back. That's right. So I had to fly up north to the Northern California. They flew me up there for a couple of days of shooting, and then we came back and did pickup shots for Motel Room, and I had to like hopefully duplicate the cheap haircut, color that the women wore in the 1980s, which was similar to actually what I did for the Bone Garden. I went and had great big, I don't know that it really shows, but great big chunky blonde streaks
Uh-huh.
put something fun to try to do to look different.
Okay. All right. But yeah, Bone Garden, you play Laurie Curtis, which of course is a play on Jamie Lee Curtis in her role in Halloween. Laurie Strode.
Yep.
Mike Guttridge being creative there.
He's a clever guy. He's a clever guy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But yeah, I remember you and Tracy in that film uh being friends and having to coordinate together on certain plot points, which was interesting.
Yeah. And of course, we shot mostly at night, so we would, sleep during. We'd try to catch up on our sleep during the day, and then Tracy and I would take long walks, and she had the script so much longer than I, and I had just, gotten the script 48 hours before they flew me there. So we would, run lines, run lines, run lines, and
Mhm.
I think because we had this long friendship, hopefully, I think the chemistry showed. I think that we had that advantage to
Yeah,
having known each other for a long time.
absolutely, absolutely. Anyway, but yeah, what do you think? 10 years? Like I've seen the pictures that have been put up of the premiere for that, and 10
I just
years.
it's just amazing. I just think as we get older, I think that these days and weeks and months fly so much quicker than when we were little. Like I want it to slow down. The poster behind me is Man Camp, which is still running on Prime and doing really well. It's a comedy drama that I have the female lead in. I can't believe that it's been, I don't know, 3, 4 years for that, maybe 3 years for that. I cannot believe it's been 10 years. And I think the difference also when you do an indie project versus when you do a studio film is on a studio film, there's a different sort of relationship you have with everybody. It's much more professional, it's a little scarier, there's a lot more money involved. And not that indie films don't have a lot of money involved, particularly for the producers that are putting up the money, but I think you form a different relationship. It's like together building the barn, you know, and it's not like that on a studio either. You know, I've done a number of TV shows, network TV shows, and it's not like that. It's not building the barn. You don't, if I run into people that I did a TV show with years ago, we don't really know each other. Whereas on indie films, there is such camaraderie and everybody is in it for the good of telling the story and making a beautiful project. And I think because Mike has the kind of heart he has, and it was his passion, and he put together people that he cared about and that cared about him. I think that's why the years, I'm surprised that it's 10 years, because there's still such a warm feeling in my heart for the people I've worked with. And during that chapter in my life that I shot this, you know, beautiful, you know, passion project of Mike's.
You know, it's interesting because on IMDb it says release date February 2nd, 2016, Australia. It's a DVD premiere, and I'm like, they don't actually have the actual release date on it because I know it was done before I started podcasting in 2015.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and yeah, I would have to go back in my brain to try to figure out what was happening in my life. Literally, I know I was upstairs. We have a library, just a room that with, you know, beautiful bookshelves and a little comfortable couch. That's like my Zen place. And I have to learn lines. It's almost like Pavlov's dog. That's where I go when I'm like, I did a play a year and a half ago and have huge monologues. I go into my little library and sit on that couch, and it's kind of my little corner of the world. And I was sitting on that couch reading a book, and Tracy called and said, okay, I don't have to. Tracy had never called me. And even though I saw her through her brother and my friend, and Tracy called and said, I don't have time to chit chat. I'm emailing you a script right now. Go read it. And this guy named Mike Guthridge is going to call you in an hour. You have 1 hour to read it. And they just fired the gal that's starring opposite me, Tracy said, and I think you're perfect for the part. And, you know, it was Mike didn't want to work with someone that he thought was going to really create havoc on the set. You know, good for him to have enough strength and power and integrity to say, I don't want you in my project. I think you are not the kind of person I want to spend my time with. And you're not the person that I've invested a lot of money, and I've invested, you know, this is such an important project for me and I've worked so hard on, I don't want to work with you. And I mean, I think that probably took a lot of gumption to release her. And then just on a whim and a hope that I would work out, offer me the role and fly me in.
Mhm. Well, it was a fun movie. I'll say that. And of course, Paul Crackdow in this, and Rob Milkey. He got this Friday the 13th alumni in there, you know. So uh, that was fun. Um,
And
and
of
of
course,
course,
you know who they are. I've never seen a Friday the 13th movie. I'm sorry to your audience. Like, I'm a scaredy cat. I own up to it. So I had no idea who those guys were.
you never watched Tracy Savage
No,
in her hammock scene in
no,
Friday the 13th Part 3 because
I've
she's
never seen it.
associated with the hammock.
Mm. No, I'm a scaredy cat. Like I said, this season of True Detectives, my heart almost stopped a zillion times.
Well, it's interesting because the opening of the film, the woman that is having car trouble at the beginning
Oh
of
yeah,
it,
yeah.
yeah, that is John Waters' assistant or something like that. They
Wasn't
couldn't get
smart?
John Waters.
Wasn't that smart of Mike? That was
Yeah,
very smart of Mike. Yeah,
he
yeah,
couldn't get John Waters, so he got her assistant. And I'm like, you know
yeah.
what? That is kind of cool.
Yeah. You know, he has sent me scripts just to see what he has written. He wrote a beautiful, now somebody you would know, but I can't think of who it is. He wrote a script that takes place in Pasadena
Mhm.
surrounding a house that some, is it John Carpenter? Would it be John Carpenter?
Yeah, I think so.
Boat,
Yeah.
or yeah, and the whole movie is based around this house and this location in Pasadena. And you know, I mean, Mike writes these really smart, beautiful projects with heart, his dialogue, one of the reasons why I actually was able to quickly learn the lines was because I think he writes dialogue so well. As an actor, if it's not a easy fit, if it's an easy fit, learning lines are effortless. If it is not a easy fix, it's a little bit, it's more of a struggle. And for Mike, the way he writes dialogue has always, at least the Bone Garden for me and the scripts I've read that he's passed on, I think his dialogue's very, very strong. But he also wrote a beautiful, Loves Halloween, about a woman and a pumpkin patch. And, he's writing things that could, if he had money or someone had money, could be produced because of the way he writes them. And anyways, yeah, I think he's terrific. Yeah. But that opening scene, that was very, very smart of Mike to do that.
Hmm.
Very
Yeah.
smart.
Oh,
Sometimes that's what it is. So Motel Room, my lifelong friend, our parents double dated in high school. Bradford Lipson is his name. Is an award-winning DP, director of photography. He's an amazing cinematographer. And Brad has always wanted to direct, and he has been the DP of many, many network TV shows, and he's always wanted to direct an episode, and that has never happened. And Motel Room is a script that came to me about 6 years ago and never got made. And I just was one of these heart projects that just never left my heart. And I could never forget it. And I just felt like it was a story that I needed to be a part of telling. But talk about like relationships. Brad directed it. I executive produced it and I star in it. But Brad, because of his experience in the DP world, what he was able to bring to the table in terms of like our gear package only cost a certain amount of money, but was valued at easily 20 times more than what we paid for the gear package because of his connections. And sometimes when people are putting projects together, they think about that. What does that person bring to are they bringing more to the table than just that one thing that they're being hired for? So for Brad, directing Motel Room, Brad brought these relationships. We had our post-production for Motel Room is at a very well-known post-production facility in Los Angeles called Point 360. And because they love Brad and because they fell in love with our project, and our project is just such a beautiful little film, the story is just really precious, that they did post-production really with just a handshake. I mean, because of the connections with Brad and everything like that. So sometimes, you put together something and it's like a piece. It's not just that one piece of the puzzle. It's everything that surrounds that one piece of the puzzle. And, smart of Mike to have done that.
absolutely, absolutely. Do you have any memories of Hollywood Shuffle?
Oh God, that's so great. So it was so interesting when we went and saw American Fiction
You
this
know what?
year.
I want to see that movie, and we haven't got it here.
Well, it's really like a modern day, in some ways, Hollywood Shuffle. I love Jeffrey Wright. I think the core of the theme of American Fiction really was the core of the theme of the Hollywood Shuffle. The Hollywood Shuffle is written and stars Robert Townsend, who is extraordinarily gifted and talented, and I think should and hopefully will have. Don't His career kind of after that quieted down, and I hope that someday there's plenty of time left for this extraordinarily talented man to have a phenomenal career. He should be a showrunner or starring in a TV series. But the Hollywood Shuffle was once again an indie film, and I had just moved to LA, and I became friends with these casting directors, and literally he had shot a few scenes in the Hollywood Shuffle where he actually took a class at UCLA. This was long before, this was in the 80s. So this was long before digital. And he took a class at UCLA so that he could get the cameras inexpensively. And he bought film and he like couldn't pay anybody, but he took out his like, a gas credit card to fill up people's gas tanks. And literally the casting director said, and I had done a few things. I grew up doing theater. That's my whole background is theater. I went to school in London. I grew up doing theater in Denver and heavy theater background on stage and university majored in theater. And so I hadn't worked that much in front of the camera. I actually got my SAG card on a Mork and Mindy episode when they shot
Hmm.
it in Denver when I was a kid in school, and they needed one local and they hired me, and I worked with Robin, crazy Robin, during that
I
time period.
love
So when
Robin Williams.
he was
Yeah.
so great. He was so, and then this is a quick aside. Gary Marshall actually directed that episode that came to Denver because Mork and Mindy took place in Boulder, Colorado, which is actually where I went to college. So they would come a couple times a year and shoot an episode in the mountains in Colorado just to have that. Every season they would do that. And on that one, they needed a young girl that was a local hire, and I was hired, and I got my SAG card. Gary Marshall directed that. Years later, I did a play in LA that I co-produced and that I was starring in. And the second female lead, I was the lead, was Kathleen Marshall. And the director was kind of didn't show up a lot of times, didn't come prepared, and we fired the director, and Gary stepped in and ghost directed the last 3 weeks before we opened up the play. Doesn't really remember me as the kid that he hired in Boulder, but it was kind of this full circle moment that I got my SAG card that way. And then Gary ghost directed, which was so just like an amazing moment for me. But um, now see, I lost track of that was my lost
Hollywood
track
Shuffle.
again.
Hollywood
Oh,
Shuffle.
the Hollywood. So yeah, so the casting director just Jackie Brown and Tony Livingston, and I'm still in touch with Tony. Um, they said we'd like to hire you for this one scene, and my one scene in the movie, I play an award girl that's bringing out the Academy Award that Robert Townsend daydreams that he is winning an Academy Award starring opposite Robert De Niro and Meryl Streep in the same category. And I'm the award girl. They've got me really glamored up, like really glamored up, and lots of foam for my bosoms that I look like I'm just like, Jane Mansfield. And all of a sudden, Robert is not sure if his fantasy is about me or about winning the award. And he kisses me, and then it's all about, Anyways, I'm in one scene, and my one scene with Robert was shown every time he was on the night talk shows. It was shown on like Johnny Carson and all those talk shows numerous times. They showed a clip on, I think, the Academy Awards. They showed my scene, which was so funny because I'm literally in the one scene. Years later, it was probably about 6, 7 years ago, I went to a talk. I saw that Robert, who I hadn't seen in a billion years, was speaking somewhere, and I went, and they asked audiences questions after Robert spoke. And I stood up, I raised my hand, and I said, "Robert, it's Tammy Kaitz." And he ran down the steps and grabbed me and twirled me around and said said to the audience, "This is actress in the Hollywood Shuffle." So anyways, that was my time seeing Robert again. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Let's talk a little bit about Man Camp, which you
Yeah.
got posted behind you. I still haven't got the chance to see that yet, but
Oh,
looks
it's on Prime.
fun.
I saw Dan Cummings and his buddies, and they wrote, and Dan, I think, came up with the money, and they made a great little movie. And then Pete Gardner from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, who stars in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, that was a wonderful comedy that was on the air for a while, plays my boyfriend. The
Hmm.
fact that they got Pete to do this, and I was cast in LA, and they flew me. I said, "Where's this taking?" But when I walked in, when I got the script, like it was one of these things that I knew. that this part was meant to be mine. I just knew it. It was a mom with three boys. They describe her as being Mediterranean looking, because the sons have brown hair. They can do comedy and drama. I just like it was almost like the dialogue just suited me, like putting on the perfect outfit, kind of like how when I read Mike's script of Baumgarten, I felt that way. And I went in there, I auditioned in LA, and I knew the minute I walked in the room that that part was mine. Like I knew it. I made the director laugh, and I actually made him cry. They had me do a scene, and then I didn't hear back from them for a couple of months, or I would hear occasionally, and they would, I guess they assumed the communication they were sending to me, it was obvious I was cast, but I kind of thought they were always looking for a bigger name on the other line. And then my husband and I were in New York on vacation, and Dan called and he said, Pete Gardner is going to play your boyfriend. And I was a fan of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. And I said, I got the part. And they said, oh, it's been your part since you auditioned. It was yours all along. Like there was nobody that this part was meant for. And then I said, where's it shooting? And they said, outside of Boulder, Colorado. I'm a third generation Denverite. And I was like, yes. And that was such a full circle moment that they flew me back to Colorado, where I grew up doing theater, and shot Man Camp. And then it was funny because we stayed at a little place that had cabins. Everybody had their own, cabins. And my son was going to University of Colorado then, or maybe he was living in Boulder. He was going to, and I had said to him, I have to drive up through Boulder. Let's have coffee. And he said, no, Mom, I'm busy. I can't. I'm working. And I said, okay. And then of course, I get to my condo or my cabin, and I open it up, and it's got a bouquet of flowers from my family. And that's why he couldn't meet me for coffee. He ran ahead of me, drove ahead of me to get to the cabin to place flowers from my husband and kids, and then get back to Boulder so that I wouldn't see him on the road. But that too was an amazing experience. And when I finally saw the movie, I just think they just did a heck of a good job. I mean, there are indie films that just, and maybe my heart, I'm just an indie film actor. There are indie films that are just, people are just, they don't have what a studio can provide. And these indie films, some of them are just so clever and so good, and everything about them. Anyways, I'm very proud of it. Very, very proud of it.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Motel Room. That is a more recent film, and
It is.
it's almost got a Mrs. Robinson, The Graduate kind of tone in there.
It does. It does. So it's actually a semi-true story that the writer wrote. I'm in a movie that I had done that he had written years before. And his name is Sahag Gagarian. And Sahag had sent me about 6 years ago. He just said, can you just read this and tell me what you think? Is it any good? He said, because I have some people that want to produce it. And I read it. And even then, I was too old, like on the character that he wrote. And I said to him, oh my God, I have got to audition for this. Like it just called out to me. And so I auditioned for it back then, and I was cast. And it's really the story between a teenager and a prostitute. And the teenager is really his story, which I'll share with you. But the producers were not willing to, they wanted to, he felt very, he felt artistically that it really had to be the story he wanted to tell. The producers, he didn't like the direction the producers were going in terms of casting the other kid. They wanted a really good looking Hollywood actor. And Sahag pulled the project from them. And I said, I want to make it. But then he vanished, and I couldn't get in touch with him. And over the pandemic, we became Instagram friends. And then we started talking. And I said, I've never been able to release this out of my heart. This is such a gorgeous story. And it's the story of a teenager, a little awkward teenager, Armenian kid who is brought to the father's prostitute to lose his virginity, like his brother had 2 years prior. The same prostitute, because this is the prostitute that's a big part of the dad's life. And the kid gets in the motel room, and I don't want to give too much of the story away, but it's a moment in time where they really see one another for their authentic selves. She really sees who he is as a human being, and he too sees who she is as a kind, beautiful, wonderful, not beautiful, but is a beauty of the heart person. And it's a moment in time where these two people meet, and there's a unbelievable connection, and then he leaves, and you hope that he's changed because someone has finally really seen who he is, and she is left in the motel room to continue on with her life. But she too has changed because this teenager validated her as much as she validated him. And it's just really beautiful. It's doing really well in film festivals and winning awards. And I'm just super proud of it. Super proud of it.
Yes. And of course, the latest thing you have listed, I can't believe it's not wood floors. Still, Jeepers, the longest production ever,
I
Mike.
know. Mike should probably take that down, but he put it up, so I can't take it down. So.
I don't know. What are we going to do with Mike? What are we going to do? But you get a couple of
By the
podcasts.
time we do it, I'm going to be way too. Everybody he's attached, I'm going to be way too old.
Oh, you're only 39.
I was one time.
Yeah. I still think Tracy's as beautiful as she was when I saw her in
Oh yeah.
the 80s. Oh yeah.
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 Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But you got a couple podcast series on here too, like I Am Echo and Love Murder
Oh,
Florida.
yes, that's really wild. It's called Voyage Media. So I get an email. I can't. Okay, I'm gonna
Fever
reveal.
Dreams, a pulp
I'm, I'm gonna
collection. Yeah.
reveal the truth. I'm like partially tone deaf, and my husband and kids tell me that Bob Dylan sings better than I do. Okay, so I don't have a good ear. I could never do animation. I can hear it in my head. I can't really learn a language or accents because I can't make them come out. It's just a slight learning. It's a slight learning disability, slightly being tone deaf. So
Uh-huh.
I get an email from someone saying I was recommended and that he's got a scripted podcast and he wants me to send him an audition tape, which I don't even know how to do. He's like, do you have an iPhone, voice memo? I'll send you the script. I said, I'm not the right person for this. I said, I know some VO, that's voiceover actors that are so actresses. They're so phenomenal that if you need a middle-aged gal, let me give you the name of a couple people that's all they do. And he's like, no, no, no. I heard you were really terrific. I said, okay, I'll audition. And I auditioned and I was cast. And the first one I did was I Am Echo. It's a scripted podcast. I think there's 5 episodes. I play, like in the TV series Succession, Roy, the evil father. I play the evil mother. My part is the female version of that, which is just, it's so yummy. I mean, I love playing romance and still getting kissed and, being beautiful, but it is so, as an actor, it is really fun to play evil. That I Am Echo, somewhere around the world, is one of the top rated scripted podcasts that people are listening to. And supposedly there's going to be a season 2. I ended up doing 4. Like, I didn't even know how to do this. I went into my son's closet. So before the pandemic, as actors, we would be brought to a studio and an engineer would take care of everything. And, when I've done looping and I've done, after a movie's done, if there's some messy dialogue, you just go into a studio and you have a microphone and, it's all set up, right? And we can just be actors. Since the pandemic, actors have turned into technicians. I do my self-tape here. I had an audition yesterday for a movie. I use one son's bedroom for that. We're empty nesters. I have a self-tape studio in that son's room, and in the other son's room, his a fairly big closet. I put a TV stand and put my laptop that I'm talking to you on and headsets on and like a tripod with a mic, and like they had to walk me through. They had to hold my hand on how to do this, and I had the script on my screen and desktop, and did it from my son's closet that I'd pillows stuffed everywhere to absorb the sound and everything. But so since then, I've done with Voyage Media 4 podcasts. I've done I Am Echo, the one I really like, which is Love Murder Florida, or Florida Murder Love. Jane Lynch stars my best friend. Jane Lynch is in a third of it. I'm on every single page for like 90 pages between the 4 or 5 episodes. Jane is in it for a third. Now, unfortunately, we never met, because how they're doing it now is, I send in on my voice memo on my phone. I send in to the engineer, and he puts it together. But so Jane plays my best friend in that. And then I did 2 other ones. And
You
I
know,
don't
it's
want
funny you say that because I'm in 9 James Balsamo movies, and all of it was shot on my phone. And one of them was called It Wants Blood, and I'm being watched on a television by Eric Roberts. And
Oh, wow,
and I'm
wow.
sitting here thinking, I can't wait to ask. I'd love to get Eric Roberts on here. I know
Yeah.
I've been trying to do it because I would love to ask him what it was like working with me.
Oh my God, that would be a great interview. That would be fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I haven't had him on here yet. But like I wasn't down there. I haven't even met James Balsamo in person, and
Yeah.
he just
So
contacted me.
I didn't meet any of the people that
Yeah.
and a lot of times, even as an actor, you go to a set and you may have something pretty substantial, and they're
Hmm.
filming your close up, and by the time the magic of editing, especially with Motel Room, and having been the executive producer, I was every single step from the moment of conception until even now, I am a part of it. And even though I've been an actor for decades, I learned so much. And the magic of editing is almost as equal in terms of the artistic skill of working in front of the camera, or the director directing, or the cinematography shooting. When I was part of the editing session on Motel Room, I would say to the editor, can I can we put some more space between those lines, so that it can sit, so that it can have a little, so it can resonate. He's like, oh yeah, sure. Puts a couple beats in. I mean, it's amazing. So the same thing, I never worked with Jane, and I would never know her. I mean, I certainly would know her. I walked by her. She wouldn't know me from if I walked by her. But a lot of times, even on camera, TV and film, you may not ever know everybody else that's in the show or the production with you.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I know you get stuff in production, wood floors, and yeah, and I'm gonna have to reach out and get Mike to come on here for the 10-year anniversary of this film as well, and he's been on here 3 times.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
great.
So I've had him on here a few times, and but nonetheless, I wanted to express my thanks that I just like I said, I had an eye operation recently, right in there, and you had reached out. I posted something on Facebook about it, and you had mentioned that your husband went through it and whatnot. And it was really nice hearing from somebody that had knew somebody had some experience with that. And
Yeah, because it's not like Greg and I communicate. I mean, I post on Facebook, and he may like a post, or he may
Mhm.
post something. But when you posted about your eye, I think it was probably the first time I ever jumped in and responded, and I said, you need to immediately get this looked at. This isn't anything you sit on. You have got to move on this quick, because I went through this with my husband, who has had a fully successful retina tear repair.
Yep, yep. So I went and had the gas bubble in, and you know, um, I had the operation on the 30th of January, so still processing, and I'm hope it's successful.
Yep.
Yep. All I knew was that I couldn't take any time off work because I don't want to live on the street, you know. Um, because unlike most jobs, I don't have sick days with mine, you know. If I don't work, I don't get paid. So it's yeah, I gotta go to work. So but
Yep.
I don't do any heavy lifting or anything like that, so it's not too bad. So but
Yep. Just got to
nonetheless,
heal.
yeah,
Just got to heal. Yeah.
well, they
Yeah.
want me sleeping on my left side because it's the right eye that I had done, so I do that, and I always love it because my cat will jump up on my bed right up where my head is.
Uh-oh.
He'll jump
Uh-oh.
up, burp. It's his friggin' purr as he jumps up there, and uh, and I'm like, Kitty, because I got a CPAP machine as well. My cat will rub against that, and I'm like, Kitty. I said, you know, my sleep time and your sleep time are both two different
I know.
things.
Are you wearing a patch at all?
I was the first week, you know. I don't wear it now. When I do sleep, I have a sleep mask. I've actually never worn a sleep mask before, but Lisa
Oh, good.
Lang,
Okay. Right. That's serving the same purpose, which is protecting it. Right.
well,
Right.
Lisa Langwa, a Canadian actress who I'm really good friends with, who invited me to my first convention with her. Um, uh, every time I go to Toronto, I always meet up with her and you know, we connect on birthdays and this and that. And she's been very instrumental on um, me advancing in terms of my podcast and stuff. And she's sent me a little gift package before I come back home, and it had a sleep mask in it. It looked like a cat. She knows I have a cat, and so I've never worn a sleep mask before, and I thought, well, rather than tape that eye patch to my face, which they told me after a week I didn't have to, I just wore the eye mask, you know, and or sleep mask, and
Mhm.
you know that seems to work. I don't rub my eye or anything like that,
Yeah.
so
You
you
just have
know.
to be careful. I had at the end of January, I took something out of the microwave and got second and third degree burns on my wrist. It's healing great.
Wow.
So I am a hiker, and even last Saturday when I went hiking, I put a big Band-Aid on it just to protect it, just so that it wouldn't rub with my poles and everything like that. It just is something that's still healing. My skin is still healing. It's doing great. I may have a little scar, who knows? It's, but you just have to protect our physical body, and you don't want your cat or have cat hair already. So I think the sleep mask is probably a really smart idea to wear at night.
Oh yeah. But nonetheless, you know, well, that scar's got me nothing compared to what Pete went through on man camp.
That's right.
He went through some
That's right.
scars. I know that.
That's right. He
I
went
haven't
through
seen
a
the movie,
lot.
but I've seen the
Oh my
pictures.
God. He is so talented. It was really fun during the actors strike.
Hmm.
I was going, it was a way for me to get my steps in every day. I would go to Disney because it was about zero point 0.8 miles around. It was easy for me to get to. Parking was easy, and I would go 3 to 4 times a week and did it for months, the entire month. And it was just, not only did I make new acquaintances of people in my field,
Hmm.
I would run into old friends. And then one day I ran into a Pete Gardner, and on the same day I ran into, or maybe it was the next day I ran into, so Motel Room is really the teenager and the prostitute, but there is a very important role, which is the father who brings the kid to the motel room, and then he picks up the kid at the end. And you feel his presence every second of the movie. The father has to be this very strong, domineering character. And I ran into him. So I got a picture with both my leading guys, on the strike, just I've got pictures of both me and the fellas. So it was fun. But he is, oh my God, he is extraordinarily gifted. He should be on another sitcom. He is so clever. He is so fast. I mean, I kind of don't think of myself as funny, but I'm actually really good at comedy if it's written well. If it's written well, I know exactly how to deliver on in the script in terms of comedic timing. But then there are these people that are so gifted that they don't need a script. Just off the top of their head, they just have that funny bone, and Pete is one of those. He's really a talented guy.
Yeah, and you had dinner with Tracy recently.
Yeah.
Did you
She
tell
actually
about?
came on one of my hikes. I've invited her to one of my hikes. Yeah,
Yeah,
and she's doing great. Yeah.
yeah.
She's a professor now. She doesn't really act anymore. I mean, she hasn't really acted in years. She doesn't consider herself every now and then people will for horror films want, but she she went from an actor to a very successful news reporter, journalist, journalism, going into journalism, and now she's a professor. And as an adult, she took night classes to get her master's so that she could become a full professor. And she's a full professor teaching journalism. I have been a guest in her class a couple of times talking about acting. And actually, Brad, who directed Motel Room, Bradford Lipson, Brad was a guest once or twice in her classes talking about cinematography. But she does go. She went to London, like she literally went to London like for 72 hours because it was a horror film convention
Hmm.
that they offered her a good deal, and she went. And I've never gone to one of those, so I have no idea what it's like. I have lots of friends who are in horror films, and I guess they go and sign autographs and meet people. But I think Tracy doesn't consider herself an actress anymore. Although if there's a small something in a horror film, she does it because she does it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I put 3K in a movie because of her, so I can't do that anymore, mind you,
Yeah,
but there
yeah,
was a time I was able to. And
yeah.
but yeah. So no, I'm happy I've had her on here a number of times. So and seeing her on Zoom is great because I know the first two times are on the phone, but like
Yeah.
with you, but now, it's like I could see Tracy.
I know. I was hoping that she came to kind of meet everyone. So I'm kind of I mean, I've been an artist my whole life and an
Hmm.
actor, but I'm also, married my childhood sweetheart. We have two sons. I have this very balanced, very balanced life. I love gardening and stuff like that. But I have for years and years raised money for pediatric cancer research. And so for 3 years, I was involved with a group. The organization is called Cure Search, and they're one of the top pediatric cancer research organizations. And we hiked in one day 29 miles on the Pacific Crest Trail, raising money for kid cancer. And I did it 3 different times, 14 and a half hours. And I just can't do it anymore. I'm at the age where I feel like it's starting to hurt some of my joints, but I'm still a cheerleader for the team. And I brought Tracy to a triad hike to meet everyone, and she fell in love with everyone. And she actually was very interested in potentially joining the team this year, except that she's out of town on the date that the Cure Search hike takes place. So she is not able to. But we had the best time when she came in on this hike, and everybody loved her, and she loved the whole team. And they do it all around the United States. It's not just Los Angeles. They have, I think, 7 different hubs where they do these ultimate hikes for Cure Search. And it's really a cool thing to be a part of, and to know that I'm giving back to something that actually made a difference for us. Our oldest, when he was 14, had stage 3 cancer. And
Hmm.
when he was diagnosed, only in the last number of years prior to that did they discover the right chemo cocktail for his kind of cancer. And our son is now a grown ass man today, 6 feet tall, hairy chested man, and has been in remission for many years. And but he is alive and survived because of medical research. So it's something that I, out of my heart, am ecstatic to be able to give back to, which is to help raise money.
Yeah, well, I'm really happy that you're able to promote that and whatnot, you know. I used to promote a charity on here and I quit doing it because I got burned a number of times with it. So I just quit doing it. But yep. And part of it was through the film I put 3K into, you know. Um I got very well mistreated on that. So I just
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, I just turned my back on it, you know, and
It's okay. Move on. Move on. Right?
yeah,
Yep.
but nonetheless, you know, I'm really happy that that has worked out, and I'm glad to hear the story of your husband with the eye surgery too,
Yeah.
because it's nice to hear that
Yeah.
other people gone through it, and I have listened to some stuff online about that as well, so I'm like, I kind of know what I'm dealing with, you know, so
Yeah. On
yeah,
a funnier note, if you stand up just a little taller with your backdrop and the heart behind you,
yeah,
almost looks like Mickey Mouse ears.
yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I like the blue. I like the blue you're wearing today, though.
Oh, thank you, thank you. It doesn't look
Yeah.
blue. I think of it as being purple, but thank you.
Oh, is it purple?
I
Looks
think it's
blue
purple.
on here.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ta-da.
Oh well. It just from this vantage point, maybe it's
It's
just my
one of those things
screen.
like that dress that they had online a number of years ago. They said, "Do your eyes see blue and gold, blue and silver, or do your eyes see gold and remember? Do you remember that a
I don't
number of
know.
years ago?"
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we all
Yeah.
slightly.
Yeah. Well, next time you have lunch with Tracy, you tell her I'm blushing.
Yes, I will drop her a note. I will actually drop both her and Mike a note and let them both know you and I just chatted.
Oh, you gotta bring Mike onto those hikes. Mike needs that.
Oh, Mike lives on the East Coast.
So good, then that gives him a long, good. He could get a good
Actually
start
haven't
on it.
seen I haven't seen him since well we had a premiere in I saw him twice after we shot it, but we keep in touch. So I feel like if I saw him today, it would I'd love to see him. I should take another trip out there for some Maryland crab cakes and my visit with Mike and his family.
There you go. Oh, he could use that. It gives him a
Yeah.
good chance to get that hike in. Well, you know what? It was wonderful having you come on here today and
Oh, so
talk,
nice
you
talking
know.
to you. Really nice talking to you. And I'm so glad you're doing well and just wish you the best with your recovery and just,
Mhm.
let your body heal.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm working two jobs right now too, so uh that's how bad inflation has gotten right now, you know. And here I want to move to Toronto, and it's just like, you know, we need a change in our government. I do know that. I don't know if you've been following it. Not that I want to get political, but
Well, there's so much going on in the US that it's hard
I've
to,
heard.
which I don't want to get into any of that. But yeah, yeah,
When I hear stories about them wanting Trump back, I know things are getting weird.
I live in a very liberal world, so it is, but that is not necessarily how many in the U.S. are. So we shouldn't go there because I don't know what your audience, uh, yeah,
Look,
wishes
I
for.
don't judge anybody by how they vote. I really don't, you know. And it's as long as it doesn't affect my day-to-day life, you know. But when I hear like the big thing here in Canada, the carbon tax, get rid of it.
Mm.
Get rid of it. It's not necessary.
I am gonna have to read up on that. I'm gonna have to read up on what's going on.
Well, when I started wanting to move to Toronto, because I had a job lined up there, and I
Mhm,
just couldn't get moved because it's like I can't afford this $2,000 plus to stay somewhere. I can't.
mhm.
And I've been following the debates between Justin Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre, and Pierre Poilievre has my vote. I'll tell you that. If he could turn things around, he's got my vote, you know. But when they start referring to our current prime minister as a dictator, and you're starting to see evidence of it. There's problems,
Hmm.
some
Yeah.
massive problems,
Yeah.
but
Well,
yeah,
everybody in the U.S. as well as Canada, get out and vote. That's how you
get
change
out
it.
and vote. And
Got to
you know
get
what?
out.
I haven't
Everyone
voted
has
for
to get out.
years, but I'm doing it this time.
No, you have to. You have. My husband actually never registered to vote until, um, actually until Obama was running, and then he registered and happily voted for Obama. But if you care, you have to get out and vote. You can't just complain. You have to, and you have to get and talk about it, and talk about it with the younger people. And the younger people need to get out and vote.
We need to vote for Mike Guthridge. It would
My
be
president.
it would be Halloween every friggin' day, wouldn't it?
It would be a life of pumpkins. That's so great. I can't wait to tell Mike you said that.
Yep, yep. I'll be reaching out to have him back on here at some point this year. And
You know what you should do? I don't know if you're able to do this. You should put together where you have, maybe Tracy. Well, if you have Tracy, then you're not going to talk to anybody else. But Tracy, me, Mike, whoever. But profile. If you want to profile a movie, have the leads in the movie with the director, and have a group chat or something like that. But Mike for the vote. That is very funny.
well, I'll see what I can put together, and see if we can put something together. I've had Tracy Savage on Boxing Day 5 times. That seems to be our day, and I'm like, it's a great way to have post Christmas talking Tracy.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of happy to do that. But yeah, I'll see what we can do. See
Yeah,
what we
I
can
mean, it
do.
just might be fun for a lot of your projects if you have that you love. It might be fun for you if it worked out with people's schedules.
There
So
you go.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
There we go.
yeah.
Well, before I let you go, I'd love a plug for my show.
Ah, that's right. We did this last time. So walk me through this.
Just state your name and say we're celebrating 10 years of the Bone Garden and say you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
Okay, I am Tammy Kaitz, and it is 10 years that we are celebrating the Bone Garden, and I am with Greg Gilbert on Python Paradise.
There you go. You got it. You got it.
All right.
Yeah. No, it was wonderful talking to you. And
Oh,
when you
so
see
nice
Tracy,
talking.
send her my best and
Will
uh
do.
and uh tell Mike that we're voting for him for president, so he wants
There
to
you
get the
go.
pumpkins ready.
That's his next holiday card.
I think that would be
I'm
great. Why
telling you, I'm
not?
calling Mike as soon as you and I get off here.
I think so. Yes, I think so. Every day
I'll
Halloween.
tell Mike to look out for communication with you that you'd like to have him back
Yes, has he grown any hair yet?
on. I don't know. I don't think so. He
He's
was
got it now
actually,
on Facebook where like we used to be friends on Facebook and now it's like he doesn't have it so it's set up where he's got friends showing, because I thought he
oh,
unfriended me. No, he hadn't unfriended me, but it's kind of
oh,
weird that
I
way. I
don't
don't
even,
know.
I don't even know if he's active on it. I've not seen him on Facebook for a long time. A lot of people just aren't very active anymore.
Uh-huh.
So that's interesting. I don't know the answer to this. But when you said that, all of a sudden I reflected on the scene in the Bone Garden where I'm wearing bright red lipstick, and Mike cast himself in as the guy I was making out with in a car. So I just like went nuts. Not only, and Katie's right there, right? My kids, and certainly my kids and my husband, I never pay any attention to the fact that my kids actually have seen a private viewing of Motel Room, and they wanted me to stand behind them when I was showing it to them because they were embarrassed because their mom is playing a hooker in bed with a teenager. And I mean, it's totally rated, it's not, it's all innocent and beautiful, and but my kids were slightly embarrassed, but Katie was standing right there, and so Mike just, not only did I like smear it all over, but Mike is bald, and I took my lips, which were red smeared lipstick and put kisses all over his bald crown. So
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. Well, I wish you a glorious day, and thank you so much for coming on
thank
here
you.
today.
Thank you. Best to you.
Absolutely. Folks, you've been listening to Python's Paradise. My guest, Tammy Kaitz, on here celebrating 10 years of the Bone Garden. Check that movie out. Check out Main Camp, and check out Motel Room.
Motel Room on Instagram. It's Motel Room the movie.
Absolutely, absolutely. God bless you, Tammy. Thank you so much.
Okay. Ciao.
And get out and vote for Mike.
There you go. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye bye.